as a response to a book which was written by Caecilius of Calacte. Caecilius of Calacte. Caecilius of Calacte. This book is written in response to Caecilius of Calacte. So for Longinus, the sublime is an adjective that describes great, elevated or lofty thought or language, particularly in the context of rhetoric. The last part of the book was dealing with the rhetorics, but it is not available to us anymore. So he has written in the context of rhetoric. And as such, sublime inspires awe and veneration with greater persuasive powers. So when we hear such a story, when we hear such a rhetoric, it persuades us to do something. Means, oh, I was not doing it in the right way. I could have done it better. So I could think in that manner. So that kind of thoughts follows when we listen to some talks like that, or when we read some stories like that. Caecilius of Calacte is a Sicilian rhetorician, and it was in response to him this book was written. That is how the dating of the book is done. Okay, we had a problem with the authorship, who wrote it actually. Finally, it was understood that it was written in response to a book written by Caecilius of Calacte. That's why we place him in 1st century AD, because it's a 1st century rhetorician. And one of the important thing about the concept of sublime by Longinus is, Longinus defines sublimity. In Greek it is hypsos. In sublimity in literature as the echo of greatness of spirit. Echo of greatness of spirit. That is his definition, his proper definition. The echo of greatness of spirit. So what is significant there? What is the importance of the definition? The echo of greatness of spirit. So sublimity is the echo of greatness of spirit. So whose spirit is referred to here? Whose greatness of spirit is echoed in a literature? You understand the idea? Do you get me? So when I write a book, my spirit is echoed there. You understand? When Victor Hugo writes Les Miserables, the greatness of the spirit of Victor Hugo is echoed in the work Les Miserables. You understand? So the moral imaginative power of the writer pervades the work of art, whether it is literature or any other work. The moral and imaginative power of the author or writer becomes very important. So he is somebody who refers to that in an early period. Echo of greatness of spirit. So there is a significant, when Plato writes, it is the greatness of Plato's spirit is echoed in his works. When Victor Hugo writes, it is the greatness of the spirit of Victor Hugo pervades the work of Victor Hugo. So that is an interesting observation in the 1st century. So the greatness in the literature is ascribed to the qualities innate in the writer rather than in the art. The moral and imaginative power of the writer perverts the work. Thus, for the first time, greatness in literature is ascribed to the qualities innate in the writer rather than in the art. You understand? That is the significance of his definition of sublime. So it is for the first time, greatness in literature is ascribed to the qualities of the artist or the qualities of the writer rather than in art or the book. And he continues to describe sublime. Sublimity is a certain distinction and excellence in expression, and that it is from no other source than this that the greatest poets and writers have derived their eminence and gained immortality of renown. Sublimity is a certain distinction and excellence in expression, and that it is from no other source than the greatest poets and writers have derived their eminence and gained immortality of renown. So, it is from sublimity that greatest poets and writers gain their immortality and renown. When you look at Homer, when you look at Victor Hugo, or when you look at he refers to certain works of literary men in the 1,000 years preceded him. And he uses the examples from past 1,000 years and explains this. The sublimity, it's an excellence in expression. So there are so many writers who come in last 1,000 years, but few of them excel in the way they express, in the concept they give to us, so that the source of that excellence is sublimity, which is a certain distinction and excellence. And there are so many authors, there are so many artists, but we remember a very few of them. For example, when I say Renaissance, who is the artist who is coming to your mind? When I refer to Renaissance, who is the artist who comes to your mind? Please speak.
Noella said Michelangelo.
Okay, Michelangelo. And any others? When I say Renaissance, tell you one or two names. Michelangelo, of course. We all know, means Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Raphael. These are some of the names that come to our mind. Actually, Da Vinci, so Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo. What I remember is, when I was in the school, I knew only these three guys as Renaissance artists. Only after coming to the fine arts field, I understood that there are so many other artists from that time. But why these people are known in such a way than others? They had a certain distinction. They had a certain excellence of expression in their works in different ways. So I will show you an image now. Do you see this? Who is this?
Da Vinci?
Yeah, it's Da Vinci, a flying machine. Yeah, it's a work of Da Vinci. And why it is something very significant? It's from the sketchbook of Da Vinci. Why it is so significant?
Because he was trying to design something that could fly.
Yeah, he was trying to design something that fly at a time when no other people could even imagine it. Maybe it was in stories and all about people flying, but no one thought that it is possible. No one imagined that it is possible. Okay, no one would expect that is actually possible. They may dream of it, they may think of it, but he tried to actualize that dream. You understand? Provided he was living in the modern times, he would have made it fly. You understand? So such genius is there. So he was very different from every other artist and other people. And what about this one? Already we saw these paintings and things last year. What is this? What you are seeing?
The Sistine Chapel by
Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo. So what is the relevance of this? Why it is so significant and different from other artists? Again, nobody thought that such a painting would be possible there. No one could even imagine this is possible. Actually, this was commissioned to Michelangelo because in the background some others were playing against him, because Michelangelo was a renowned sculptor. So some people thought that if he goes on doing some of the other projects which is entrusted to him, commissioned to him, he would become famous. His name will live forever than theirs. So they wanted Michelangelo to do such a thing which they thought it would be a failure, because this is not a plain surface and it is on a too high a place. It's on the ceiling which is too high, and it is very difficult to paint there. And also there are architectural elements there are architectural elements that you find in the ceiling. So it is very difficult to paint that plane. It is a curved surface, and when we come down it may not look correct when it is in a curved surface. So Michelangelo did something that was considered impossible. His achievement was something impossible to human thought. And you see some other painting, Raphael, the School of Athens. We already saw this and discussed these paintings in the last year. So there is a sort of symmetry and there is a sort of believability. It is a believable room. But the characters presented there, they lived in different parts of the world, not in the same place, and they were never a part of academy, except a few guys, and they lived in different times. But he created a painting which could be believed by anyone. So that's an innovation by Raphael. Okay, and there are also other artists. This is Masaccio. Here the achievement of Masaccio is, it's about perspective. When you look at the perspective that he has achieved. Last year I have shown that image to you. Actually, when you go and look at this painting, you feel like it is actually a window opening to the wall, and inside the niche there is a crucifix actually hanging there. So the perspective, the quality of perspective he achieved in this painting is incredible. You understand? So they excelled others in some way. Again, I can show you some other images also. This one. Actually, this one also means I'll just speak about this painting a bit. We already discussed these paintings in last year, I guess. I don't know if it was me or some other teachers who did this part. I started from the High Renaissance, I guess. So if you look at this painting, Piero della Francesca, when I ask who are the Renaissance artists, we never referred to him. But we know, as students of art, we might know, but other people may not know Piero della Francesca. It's also an excellent painting. But there is something lacking here, which by the time of Da Vinci, Raphael, Bernini, those people have achieved it. Okay. So what is lacking here? The perspective is perfect. If you look at the perspective, it is perfect. But what is lacking here is flagellation. It is very static. The flagellation means it's a very painful moment. There is no emotion attached to the painting. It's very what we say, it is more intellectual or more scientific than emotional. The scientific perspective is perfect. If you look at the coffer, if you look at the designs on the floor moving backwards, the three men discussing there, and Christ and other people who are whipping him are standing around, Pontius Pilate is there. So it is titled flagellation, but the actual flagellation has gone to the background. It has no prominence, and it is lacking some emotion. And again, there is another painting by Piero della Francesca, Resurrection. Again, this is also a moment, it is one of the most important moments of Christianity. Actually, this is the moment from where Christianity actually begins. So, this is the most important charisma of faith for the Christianity. So, it is from where the Christianity begins. Like all the apostles were preaching the resurrection of Christ in the beginning. Not about the birth, not about the life, not about the passion, but it was resurrection. If there was no resurrection, there was no Christianity. So, this is the crucial moment of Christianity, most important moment of Christianity. But look at the painting. Again, like somebody who means I cannot do any acting here. People are sleeping there, and somebody from a backdrop comes up and stands there with a flag. So emotionless when you consider. You understand? But technically there is a perfection as far as perspective is concerned. As far as when you look at the anatomy, there is a clinical perfection, more cerebral in representing the forms. It is more cerebral than emotional. I hope you are able to understand. The point I am trying to make is some artists are preferred over others because of some kind of excellence, because of some kind of distinction, and that distinction comes from the quality of sublimity. So that is the source of sublimity, is the source of that distinction and excellence that is found in some artists, according to Longinus. In fact, Longinus lived far before these people, but we are taking these examples because probably these works were done in a time when this book was rediscovered. So again, coming back to the description, sublimity is a certain distinction and excellence in expression, and that it is from no other source than this, that greatest poets and writers have derived their eminence and gained immortality of renown. So we looked at a few artists of Renaissance period and tried to understand this description of Sublime by Longinus. And he goes on to say, the effect of elevated language upon the audience is not of persuasion but of transport. Our persuasions we can usually control. But the influences of the sublime bring irresistible might to bear. You will not be able to control. So if somebody tried to persuade you, okay, you can think for yourself. He is trying to make me buy this thing. A marketing man comes to your home and tries to sell something. He tries to persuade you, but you can resist it. You understand? You can resist the words of a marketing employee. Maybe somebody calls you and say, "Sir, there is a new product that we present in the market. This is good," and he puts up all the good qualities of that particular product in front of you in a very, very interesting way. Still, you can resist. Because it is an attempt to persuade you. The effect of elevated language is not of persuasion. It is of transport. You will not be able to resist the might of that feeling. You get the difference. The influences of the sublime brings irresistible might. But when somebody tries to persuade you, you can resist. You can stop. You can choose whether to buy or not to buy a product that is in front of your door. So the effect of elevated language upon the audience is not of persuasion but of transport. And he is also speaking in the light of rhetorics. Most of the time he is also referring to rhetorics. So when you listen to a good rhetoric, you may forget yourself. Your reason is lost. Maybe I will give you two examples. Means one of them is in 2015 there was a Oxford Union speech by Shashi Tharoor. It was viral on internet, and the theme of it was a debate actually in which Shashi Tharoor spoke for some 8 minutes. He was the seventh speaker of his group, and that 8-minute speech was viral. You can Google and find out the speech for yourself. You can just Google Oxford Union speech Shashi Tharoor. It was in 2015. So the motion they were trying to pass was, this house believes Britain owes reparation to her former colonies. Britain owes reparation to her former colonies. Has anyone heard that? I'm just curious. Have you heard that speech? Anybody in the class? It was viral a few years ago. Even now it pops up sometimes. Has anyone heard? Shashi Tharoor Union, Oxford Union speech. Yeah, Madhulika says she has heard it. Maybe you have heard it. But I'm not going to the speech. You can Google and listen for yourself. So the end result was, actually the House was against this motion. But after Shashi Tharoor presented his arguments, after his rhetorics, the motion was passed in favor. In the end, Tharoor's side win 185 votes against 56. So in the beginning, the mind was different. They had a different verdict in the beginning. But towards the end of his speech, everyone agreed that Britain owes reparation to her former colonies. I hope this example is clear enough. The effect of a rhetoric in the mind of the audience. And Sublime has a number of specific effects for which Longinus calls upon the readers to search, and he lists out them as laws of rationality, deep emotion combined with pleasure and alienation. So laws of rationality, deep emotion combined with pleasure and alienation. There are also other kinds of rhetorics I would refer to. If you remember, 3 years ago, there was something that happened in India. That kind of rhetoric was there, and people in general, I don't say everyone, maybe there are people who did use reason and understood it, but it could take away the reason of certain people. And deep emotion combined with pleasure and alienation. If you listen to some of the religious rhetorics, some motivation speakers or people, some kind of gurus, when they speak or when they do something on the stage, there is a kind of deep emotion that result in our mind, or some kind of pleasure and alienation that we feel. Some charismatic preachers or religious preachers very often use that kind of techniques. Their rhetoric is in such a way that they can lead people to deep emotion with pleasure and alienation. So these all could be the examples of sublime. There are both positive and negative elements that I discussed, examples I discussed, but you understand the notion of sublime according to Longinus. Or another example, a visual example could be, suppose I would maybe in the one of the earlier classes I might have referred to it. Once during my college days, two of my juniors came with me to my home, and they stayed at my home, and I took them to a waterfall, Adirapalli Falls. I don't know if someone has visited that, and I don't know if somebody is listening from Kerala. There is a movie Ravan, Aishwarya Rai. You remember a movie Ravan, and you see Aishwarya Rai falling from a waterfall in a forest. Have you seen? Anybody remembers? Yeah, some I don't know if everyone has seen that film, and that is the Adirapalli Falls. That is the place I am referring to. So I took them there, and it was, I don't know if somebody knows, it was Rafian and Gangotri. Rafian and Gangotri was with me, and we went there, and they wanted to go to the bottom of the waterfall. We went there and we were seeing the waterfall, and after a while I found Gangotri standing on a rock, standing on a tall rock, and we all went behind her, and I also climbed, and she has stretched her arms to the waterfall, and she is uttering sublime. We can't actually hear. I went close to her and I listened to her. She is saying sublime. She has forgotten everything. She does not know what is happening around her. So it is a very beautiful experience. We cannot say beautiful actually, much more than that. So she loses reason. She loses a thought of where she is. Okay, what she is doing. She is not caring for anybody who is there. So that kind of experience, a kind of alienation. You understand? So that is what Longinus mean by sublime. Longinus simplifies these effects by stating that a strong writer will not focus on his own emotions or trying to convey his emotions. Rather, to cause the reader to feel those emotions for himself. A strong writer will not try to convey his own emotions to the reader. Instead, he will be able to cause in the reader the same kind of emotions he goes through. You understand the difference? He is not trying to convey the emotion. Instead, he makes the reader feel those emotions the same way the writer feels it. Have you seen the film Dangal? Dangal?
Yes, Father.
Okay. Do you remember the climax of the film Dangal? What is the climax? How it ends? Do you remember? Were you emotional when you were seeing that film? In the climax, were you emotional? I don't know, I am a man who cries. When I see a film, I would cry. So I was crying towards the end of the film. I was happy, but I was crying. Do you remember the climax? I will just summarize it. During the final match, her father is not able to come. And her father, who is her actual coach, is able to reach the stadium. But the problem is that the professional coach was very angry with her father, and he was not happy with her father coaching her. And the actual the professional coach locks up her father in the latrine area, toilet area, and he is inside. And actually she wants her father to be her side when she is fighting the match, and she is looking for her, and she is going to fail, going to lose the match. And in a moment, before a few seconds before the match is going to conclude with her failure, with her loss, she remembers her lessons from her father. Flashback goes. He says, you have to fight for yourself when I will not be there all the time with you. And she fights, and she makes some moves, and she clinches the match from her opponent. And at the same time, the father is too upset in the toilet block where he is locked up. And she does not know what happened in the ring where the wrestling is going on. And there is a moment when the national anthem comes, when the national anthem is recited. National anthem, it is recited for the gold medal winner. So when the Indian national anthem is heard, that emotion cannot be conveyed. Means nobody need to convey it to you. It comes from your own mind, your own heart. You understand? So Longinus simplifies these effects by stating that strong writer will not focus on his own emotions or try to convey these emotions to the reader. Instead, he will cause the reader to feel those emotions. Again, we see skill in invention and due order and arrangement of matter emerging as a hard-won result, not of one thing nor of two, but of the whole texture of composition, whereas sublimity is flashing forth at the right moment and scatters everything before it like a thunderbolt. So skill is something that you find with any invention or any arrangement of, means when you do a work of art, there is a skill. The difference between skill and sublimity. The skill is there for all of us. For any artist or any inventor or any writer, the skill is there. He has to have that skill of writing in order to write. But sublime, it happens in a moment, in the right moment and perverts. And it comes like a thunderbolt. So if you look at a good rhetoric, if you look at a good piece of literature, at a certain moment it comes and perverts you. And that is actually a gift rather than a skill. You understand? When the effect of sublimity comes and perverts, it shows the power of the orator in its plenitude. So when we listen to some of the speeches, it will give us goosebumps when we listen to somebody. Or when you read some poetry, or when you see a movie, when you see a drama, it gives you goosebumps. At a particular moment, it comes and affects you from inside. Or it may break you into tears. Or it will instill hope in you when you are broken. You understand? So it is possible for sublime. When the quality of the sublime is there in the author or writer or an artist or a rhetorician, it can do wonders. Any rhetorician will have the skill to speak in front of an audience. But certain rhetoricians with the quality of the sublime will have that power to give you goosebumps or break you into tears or instill hope in you when you are lost. That is the difference between skill and sublimity.